Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. And today I thought I would do a beginner's guide to dark romance. So, kind of like a guide to how to navigate dark romance reads. Now, I think dark romance for me was something that I never thought that I would get involved or kind of want to read because I kind of used to like my romances a little bit more tame. But as I've got older and as I've kind of expanded my horizons, I am no shame or fear of a dark romance. So I hope that you like this little quick guide that I'm about to give you. I hope you enjoy this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube things you know how to do. And let's get into the video. So we are going to go with the beginner friendly ones first. These are the ones that are kind of lighter on the dark romance and a little more easier to get into. So I've got some physical, but I've also got some that I don't own but have read that I think would fit into these categories. So we are going to have three categories. So the first category, which is we're going to talk about, are kind of like beginner friendly ones to like dip your toes in and see if you like. So I have a few here that I am just going to get into. So the first one I have is Blood and Roses by Callie Hart. Now, I didn't like this very much, but it is a dark romance book because you are following kind of morally grey characters and there's kind of a obsession vibe going on, and there's mafias in there and things like that. So this would be classed as a dark romance. I personally didn't like it, but I do say that this is kind of one that people should try and maybe read to dip their toes in. And this is kind of more of a lighter dark romance book. We then have Hooked by Emily McIntyre. She has a whole series. It's called the Never After series. Now, I really enjoyed this series. I thoroughly enjoyed it. This was one of the series that also got me into dark romance, and I think it was easy. It was like a fairy tale retelling. So this one's obviously Hooked. So this is a Peter Pan retelling, and it's just got a darker twist to it. So again, this is kind of like a mafia dark taboo romance. And I do just want to say that all of these will have trigger warnings at the front or in the back of the book. Bear with me while I just try and find it. It would usually be in the author's note and it would usually tell you. So for this one, it just says like a few trigger warnings of where to find the trigger warnings. And I really enjoyed this. I genuinely devoured this book so quickly, and I definitely think that I could reread this. This was so easy, light, dip your feet in to see if dark romance was yours. We then have two LJ Shen ones. We have The Kiss Thief by LJ Shen, and this is kind of like a mafia, kind of dip your kind of toes in. It's got a little bit of morally grey characters, but again, you can still read it like a fantasy book. I enjoyed it. It was okay. I think I rated this a 3-star. But again, I read this already reading kind of the one of the probably most vivid dark romances ever that very much makes me know my limit in dark romance. But we also have The Kiss Thief. We also have Bad Bishop by LJ Shen, which is also her recent new series of dark romance books that she's releasing. And this one again is also a dark romance. I feel like this one has a bit more than the other one, but you do obviously need to. And again, it will say author's note, and you can find all of the triggers on there. We then have The Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark, which is kind of like a whole series following kind of mafia families. So in this one, we were following the Griffins and the Gallows, and you basically follow them in Chicago. They're kind of like the underworld. Again, very light, very kind of, they're more spicy and explicit rather than got more kind of dark romance elements into it. So again, it's really quick, really easy to get into. It's kind of more of a mafia kind of one. So again, really easy to kind of dip your toes in. And again, I very enjoyed that book. We then have the Ryan Rule by Sadie Kincaid, and this is a Why Choose kind of book. And again, they're all mafia men. This is with the Irish mafia, I believe. And again, it's just really easy, and they're all really tiny. I thoroughly enjoyed them, and they are indie published, I believe. Yeah, they are indie published. I really enjoyed these books, and I've read a lot by Sadie Kincaid. And when I feel like I want a dark romance but nothing too heavy, she is definitely a go-to author for me. And it's just so quick and easy, and I just get into her books so easy, and they're just so floppy as well. The next one I have is Beauty in Lies, and this is a 4-book series. This is by Adeline Forrest, and I stumbled across this book when I was on Kindle Unlimited quite a few years ago, and I thoroughly enjoyed this. And again, this is a mafia one as well, and he's kind of got an obsession, and you kind of see him with the obsession, and again kind of stalkerish vibes and things like that. And I really did enjoy this book. I definitely think it is worth a read. There are 4 books in the series. She also does a few others as well, but I haven't tried any of the others, not because I just didn't want to, I just haven't really got around to it. But I did thoroughly enjoy this book, so if you haven't read these series, I definitely recommend. And then the last one we have is The Secret Obsession by Jesslyn Jocelyn. I think I just stumbled upon this really randomly and I really enjoyed it, guys. This is basically a mafia boss and he goes to seek a psychiatrist and he's basically got an obsession with her. He basically stalks her and things like that. But again, taboo subjects, yeah, I know. But this is a lot easier. I just find that it was, again, very spicy, very explicit. But again, there are going to be trigger warnings in here. Yeah, there are trigger warnings and content warnings, so you will be able to see it. And it deals with a lot of taboo subjects. Let me just find some. So you've got like violence, killing, guns, explicit sex, workplace, and just kind of other taboo subjects that I won't obviously ruin for you. But again, I would say it's kind of on the end spectrum of kind of an intimate a beginner to more on the intimate spectrum, but I would also still class this as intimate. More class that as a beginner one. It's easy to get into. It flows really nicely. I thoroughly enjoyed them. A couple of other ones is Lights Out, which I'll pop a picture up here. Lights Out, it's basically kind of a masked man and you're basically following the main character and things like that. And it's kind of, I more see it as like a rom-comedy side of a dark romance, but it is a nice quick way to kind of get in. You've also got the Devil Knight series by Penelope Douglas. I think I've read 2 or 3 books from that series and I thoroughly have enjoyed it so far and I do wish to continue the rest of the series. We also have Butcher and Blackbird, which is kind of like a serial killer one, which is a dark romance. I thoroughly enjoyed those. I think the first one will always be my favourite. The other 2 I just was not really that interested in, but it is a good series kind of overall to get yourself into dark romance. We then have the more intermediate ones. They're okay, they're not too dark, they're kind of in the middle, not too light-hearted but not too extreme. The first book I have is God of Malice by Rena Kent. Now I absolutely loved this book. Like when I originally read the first chapter I was like, what have I got myself into? But I genuinely enjoyed this whole series. This whole series literally became my whole entire life. Like I thoroughly enjoyed this book, guys, and I definitely recommend it if you haven't read it already. And you are following Killian and Glendon, and they're kind of in this, they're all masked men as well again in this, but it's very explicit, very off the back. Again, you also will have a trigger warning page on the author's note as well, so you'll be able to see. This one's kind of like more of a psychopath, obsession, stalker vibes, and obviously masked men as well. And I was obsessed with this series. I very much read this series within a couple of months, and there's like 6 books in them. I would say kind of the first 4. I would say God of Fury was probably my favorite, which is the 4th book, but I did like a lot of the series anyway. And then we also have the first book in the Cat and Mouse duet, Haunting Adeline. This is the first book. This is definitely more of an intermediate to borderline kind of extreme dark romance. I thoroughly enjoyed this series. I think when I read this, I still was very new into dark romance and I kind of chucked myself in the deep end and read this. I think if I reread this now, I probably would batter an eyelid to half the stuff that was mentioned in here. But we've got stalkish vibes, we've got kind of, explicit sex scenes. What else have we got? Let me just see. You probably would know if you hear Zaid Meadows, this is his book. Let me see what it is. Yeah, it's just got violence, stalking, and sex scenes and things like that. So this is one of more kind of intermediate ones, so to speak. And then you also have The Ritual by Chantal Tessier, which I'll post a picture up here for you guys. That is kind of a whole series in itself. Again, it is very intermediate. You are following very, very different kind of situations in that book. You're more in college, but again, masked men, they are in this little kind of underground group and things like that. So I definitely recommend that. I did also read that one as well. I'm just trying to think of any others that I've read. I know a few, I would say kind of like Psychotic Obsessions would also go into intermediate, and The Edge of Darkness. I think they're not as dark as I thought that they would be when I read them. Some people might go that they're in the extreme, but I think they're more intermediate. The Edge of Darkness by Leigh Rivers. I really enjoyed that series and I definitely recommend if you haven't, but please be aware because it does tear your heart in half. I literally sobbed. And I'll probably say again, I'm more in the intermediate ones as well, would be the Sweet Venom and Darling Venom, that trilogy that Rena Kent has brought out. That would probably be medium as well, just because there's a few things in there. But yeah, that is kind of a breakdown. I don't really remember. Really end of the spectrum. You have Hunting Adeline, which is the second book. And I have to admit, this is probably the darkest I've ever read. And I genuinely was shocked, guys. I was shook to my core. Bearing in mind, I'd probably only read a couple of dark romances on the more beginner side before I got into this. I would definitely say if you want to get into dark romance, you really need to build yourself up. Unless you're not phased by things, I definitely would recommend. And also, I bought these from the same place, right? Waterstones. How can one be really floppy and the other one is just like bone board stiff? But I thoroughly enjoyed it. Again, this is the second book that leaves on a cliffhanger from Haunting Adeline. I thoroughly enjoyed this series overall. I think I would definitely do a reread eventually. I just think I need to prepare myself. But again, this one has a lot more in it compared to Haunting Adeline. Haunting Adeline is probably the one that everyone says has the kind of the worst side of dark romance. But I think if you're prepared to read Haunting Adeline, I think it's only fair that you do read this. And this is known as the Cat and Mouse duet. Another really dark one I've heard is Still Beating. I will pop a picture up here. I've not personally read it, but I've heard that that's kind of on the really dark spectrum. But I don't really have any or can think of any off the top of my head that are extremely dark. That's the end of today's video. I hope you have enjoyed. And if you have any book recs videos that you would like to do, make sure to pop them in the comments and make sure to like, subscribe, comment, all the YouTubey things you know how to do. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.